Part 2, taking you through my blog post on whether or not I think capitalism will collapse. As an anti-capitalist CPA, you probably can assume that I think it will. I will provide some solutions to our problems. I understand this is negative and not great to hear, but there is hope moving forward if we can all educate ourselves and be committed to the common goal of changing things. So the third reason I think capitalism is going to collapse is that it leads to financial crisis. And we've seen that before. But capitalism is prone to financial crisis. The pursuit of profit leads to speculative bubbles and financial instability. In a capitalist system, financial institutions are incentivized to take risks in order to make more profit. This can result in the creation and proliferation of complex financial instruments that are poorly understood, difficult to manage, and carry very high levels of risk. And when these financial instruments fail, it leads to widespread economic collapse. So in the lead up to the 2008 financial crisis, there was a proliferation of complex financial instruments such as mortgage-backed securities and collateralized debt obligations. These were poorly understood and their risk levels were not assessed properly, and which led to a collapse in the housing market and the subsequent financial crisis. And I'm not an expert in these things. I have zero interest in them because they seem very boring. But I pick up financial concepts very easily and I can learn things. And, when I dive into something like this, it immediately gives me a headache. And that's a problem because that tells me that non-accountants have no hope in understanding it and just trust these experts. And often I feel, my opinion, that they're just kind of making it up as they go along too. And speaking a big game, they know what they're talking about. So we're seeing banks in the United States fail. And, side note, why is it that these banks and shareholders are made whole by the government while the people are left to starve? I don't know. Could be our corrupt systems. Another contributing factor to these financial crises in capitalism is the reliance on debt. So debt is used to finance growth and investment. However, if too much debt is taken on, it becomes unsustainable and leads to financial crisis. This was, a partial reason for the housing crisis, the housing collapse in 2008, because people take on more debt than they should. And that is definitely happening all across the board right now, both on the consumer level and at the corporate level. Pursuit of profit leads to a focus on the short-term gains over long-term sustainability. Social good is not even a factor in the equation here. So we should all be kind of really questioning this system at this point. But the propaganda has been really good to tell us that this is, the best thing for all of us. Fourth reason why I think capitalism is going to collapse is it's dependent on consumerism and how much can a consumer consume. I think we're almost at that point. There's so much shit being produced and people don't need that much, especially when they can't afford food. They're certainly not going to be buying a bunch of designer bags, at least not in the quantities that these companies need to sell in order to maintain their business profits. Consumerism relies on the consumption of resources such as fossil fuels, minerals, and water. And these resources are finite. Once they're gone, and they can be depleted over time, which leads to environmental damage and resource scarcity. Consumerism contributes to the economic instability by encouraging people to take on debt to finance their consumption. And we've already gone over why this is not a good thing. Now, I know this is all very depressing. What comes next once the system collapses? As I predict that it will eventually. I'll save that for part 3. Stay tuned.